All right, in this video, I'm gonna be showing you how to put the 63-inch Chevy Springs on my 93 Ford Ranger. The ones I bought are the 3.5-inch lift procomp springs. So I'm replacing 6-inch Skyjacker Ranger springs because I snapped one in half on the Rubicon a couple weeks ago. So I'm put these 63-inch Chevys on you and we'll see how they do with the lift. So follow along. All right, so obviously the first thing we gotta get tires up, get it off the ground, get it supported. And then the front frame hanger right here for the spring actually needs to be moved up right in this area here since the spring's a little bit longer. So I'm gonna have to go and do that. This bar right here, that's from my flatbed tube bed. I have to cut that back off and then I'll end up re-welding it back on once I get the new hanger back in. So we'll get going on that and work our way through it. All right, so I got it truck up supported, got the tires off of it. So now we just gotta pull the U-bolts, get that off, and then pull the spring on each end and get that off. I don't know, maybe the shock will work, maybe it might not. I might have to pull that as well to get it to drop enough. But so that's the next step, is get the old spring out. All right, so I got the spring out. It was fun. One of the U-bolts right there decided it didn't want to come out, and then the bolt inside the rear shackle hanger on the leaf didn't want to come out, so I cut that out to get everything out. All right, got it out. So here's the two springs next to each other right now. The one I'm taking out is a Skyjacker FR36 spring for the 6 inches of lift on the Rangers, and then the new spring is the procomp. I think it is 13211 is their part number on it. It's a 3.5-inch lift spring for the Chevy truck. So I got laid out. It's real close to centered, but you can see I kind of got the center pins lined up, and there's about a 6.5-inch difference in length right here, which is about perfect for putting it in the truck. And then you can see on the shackle end, it's about 1 inch longer, 2 inches longer. So we have a little more shackle angle. So now it's time to move this front spring hanger. You'll notice that it's a little bit different. It's not a stock one. It's one I built. Has 2.5 inches of drop in it to give the truck 2.5 inches of lift. Same thing with the shackle hanger on the back. Both those drop 2.5 inches. So I got 2.5 inches of lift built into the hangers right there. So now I gotta get that hanger squared away on the front. So we'll be moving that forward. Obviously, since I don't have to grind the rivets out, it's easier. And then I had actually, in the past, I've ran stock 63-inch Chevys before. So the bolt hole down here, the one up here, and then this one up here are already drilled, so I can move that hanger forward easy, but you end up having to move those. What happens is this bolt here on the mount goes into this hole right here. So that's what we got going on. So that'll be the next move. All right, got the hanger moved forward where it needs to be. You can see where this bolt used to be over here. I had already drilled all this, so I didn't have to re-drill it. But this factory hole right here that this hanger was in just moves to the factory hole that was right here. And then you just line this up, and you'd have to drill the other 3 holes, but I'd ran 63-inch springs before in the past, so mine were already drilled. So I just had to cut the one support out, and then I'll put that one back in. So now it's pretty much ready to bolt the spring in and go from there. So these springs, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off this overload. That will make this pack about as thick as the Skyjacker springs that I ran before. And we'll see how it does without it. If worst case, I'll instead of run this overload, I'll end up just pulling the overload I'll pull the overload that's out of the Skyjacker springs and put that one in to try to soften it up a little bit more. I don't think I need such a heavy duty overload spring in my Ranger. So I'll get that pulled out and then go from there. So to pull that overload, I just put these 2 clamps on there to keep the spring pack all together so that I didn't have to fight it, and just undid the bolt real quick. And then you can take off that overload, take off the little spacer there, then that can go back in and then just tighten down. Although that's cool because they sent one that's not threaded all the way, so when I go that way I ain't gonna be able to get it tight enough. So I'll have to dig around and see if I got a center pin or not. So on to the next battle. All right, so got new center bolts, put those in, the center pin bolts, tighten them down so no overload. The pack's actually about the same thickness as the old pack from the Skyjacker. So we'll see how it does weight wise. When I was taking apart the second one, the bolt for the center pin was that guy right there. So glad I found it before it broke. So anyway, time to put the springs in. So that'll be next. I got the hanger moved forward and time to put it in. All right, so now you can see the springs in. Now just just shove the axle forward and put the U-bolts in. I have all the spring bolts still loose so that once I put weight on it, then I can snug them up once I have the vehicle sitting back on its own weight. So be a little fun getting these on there because the spring on the other side is actually a Dodge Dakota spring, so I could get it out, so it's a little bit short. So that's why the axle looks so crooked, but once I get that in and get the other side swapped, should be good to go. So get that in next. All right, so I got the U-bolt plate on, U-bolts all on. It's still kind of loose just so I can move it around so I can get the other side in. I pulled the shock off on this side because I'm going to replace that, build custom mounts to put a little longer shock on there. So that'll be later. But so this side's all pretty much buttoned up until I put weight on it to tighten everything down. So now basically do the exact same thing to the other side. Alrighty, so I got the driver's side in. On the driver's side's a little bit different because there's a mount up here that the emergency brake cables normally mount to the bolt that holds the leaf spring in. So basically I made a new bracket that moved it back to roughly the same spot so all the cables stayed the same. Then this one moves same forward, and then I also welded in the parts for the roll cage that I had to cut out. So now both sides are in, and put the tires on, jack it up, put tires on it, see how level it sits. All right, so here it is sitting back together on its own weight. So it sits roughly the same height as my old Skyjacker Springs, maybe just a touch lower. The one thing I did notice is there is quite a shackle angle now compared to where it was. So this is the hanger 2.5 inches down from where the factory one is, and this shackle is the same length as the Beltec 6400 that a lot of people run on the Rangers. Just a little heavier duty with a bigger bushing inside. So gave me about what I had before. We'll see how it does. If I need to, I'll add the overload from the Skyjacker Springs to get me back to the same. So I figure I'm running about 9 to 10 inches of lift total in this truck in the rear, between the springs, the hangers on the frame, and then I'm not running a factory block at all. So the springs are pretty close to the same height as this if you were going to run the Skyjacker 6-inch springs. So it's definitely an alternative there. Probably a little softer ride. I don't have any rear shocks right now because I'm getting ready to do new mounts in the back to give me a little bit more travel on those. So I'm going to go with roughly a 12-inch travel shock, 11.5, 12 inches. So we'll see how it goes from there.